All right, call the meeting to order and stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, amendments to the agenda.
Can we add one amendment, please? Under old business, can we add planning, an appointment to the planning commission?
Need a motion for that.
I'll make the motion to add that under old business for appointment to the planning commission.
Second.
We got a motion by Glenn, second by Rod to amend the agenda to include a 7B appointment to the planning commission. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody have anything else? Okay. Approval of minutes, December 28th.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes of December 28th as written.
Second.
Motion by Glenn, seconded by Rod to approve the minutes, December 28th as written. Any discussion or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 5 minutes for public comment.
I'd like to comment,
You may?
if I could, please.
Yep.
I'm here, again, representing the taxpayers and their interests. We had hoped, like we had said before, to place articles on the ballot. However, after review of the signatures, we see some irregularities and it may not make it to the ballot, which we understand. However, we'd like to read in for the record what we had wanted of the sentiment of the taxpayers. There are 4 different issues. The first one being, shall the voters of the town of Fairhaven, Vermont, by means of this vote or by this sentiment, instruct and direct the Selectboard and all town administration to stop, cease, discontinue, terminate, and abandon any and all plans, proposals, projects, studies, agendas, objectives, contract negotiations, discussions with contractors, funding, grant seeking, or spending for the proposed purpose of altering, changing, modifying, removing, or disturbing in any way, in any and all ways, the sidewalks and trees from the grade school to Liberty Street, or on the opposing side of the street. The taxpayers believe, those that I've spoken with and who've gathered signatures, that the select board and the administration town manager are not focusing on priorities. The priorities that have been mentioned are in particular, but not limited to, Fairhaven Avenue, otherwise known as the Dump Road, and the actual transfer station. There's a liability there in mud season with the ruts and the mud, for someone to trip, stumble, and twist an ankle. What I've also heard in conjunction with that is that, don't shoot the messenger, that because Mr. Gunter does not live in the town of Fairhaven, he may not experience going to the transfer station weekly. Another priority is Furnace Street, the water runoff issues on Cottage Street, Grape Street sidewalks. There's copies of this for everyone. The transfer station, sanding and salting the park, the walkways. There's this big, let's revitalize safety, but yet the walkways in the park are not sanded or salted. And they also want, have spoken of, allocating excess monies to lower taxes rather than put so much towards a grant reserve. The other part of this is that shall the voters of the town of Fairhaven, Vermont, by means of this vote, by means of this presentation, instruct and direct the select board and any and all town administration to use the taxpayer money that is now in the Streets and Sidewalks Reserve Fund for the purpose of fixing existing streets and existing sidewalks throughout the town, and prohibit the use of these reserve funds for the purpose of altering the landscape and sidewalks from the grade school to Liberty Street and across the street. There's sentiment, strong sentiment out there, that's particularly the article that was in the newspaper, the $100,000 from the grant reserve. People are opposed to that, the matching grant. The next one, is shall the voters of the town of Fairhaven, by means of this vote, this presentation, instruct and direct the select board and all town administration to stop, cease, discontinue, terminate, and abandon any and all plans, proposals, projects, studies, agendas, objectives, contract negotiations, discussions with contractors, funding, grants, seeking or spending for the proposed purpose of altering, changing, modifying, or disturbing in any and all ways the landscape of the areas known as park and ride or free parking of the areas surrounding the green. People are opposed to that. The next one is, shall the voters of Town of Fairhaven, Vermont, by and means of this vote, this presentation, instruct and direct the select board and any or all other town administration to abolish the Economic Development Committee and cease, terminate, and discontinue any proposed budget or planning for a paid position for such committee. What I've heard and what's been going around to the taxpayers is, why not go to Castleton University and get an intern to upgrade the website? Why not go to Stafford Tech and get someone from the carpentry department program for a student for the bulletin board? They oppose any and all funding for the Economic Development Committee, especially the increase from $5,000 to $10,000 on the budget. And the last one, which is a new one from the last time, is shall the voters of the town of Fairhaven, by means of this presentation, instruct and direct the select board pursuant to 24 VSA 1233 to remove Mr. Joseph Gunter from the position of town manager of the town of Fairhaven for just cause. Those being public disrespect to the taxpayers at select board meetings, dismissing individual taxpayer issues upon presentation to him, advancing agendas and advocating spending taxpayer funds, both from reserve and grant matching funds for projects which are not for the immediate priority needs of the infrastructure of the town of Fairhaven.
Thank you.
And I believe that should be one, that should be two. This is three,
3.
4. Mr.
Ron?
Hooper? And I did want to say, however, that the community did, and I heard an awful lot of respect for Mr. Holsworth. That being that when he spoke several times, his concern was, we don't want to lose the respect and the trust of the taxpayers. He has said that many times, and the voters and taxpayers do watch these meetings. And they respect that, Mr. Holsworth. And that it is incumbent upon this board to attempt to regain the trust and respect of the taxpayers and voters. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Department head reports.
Aaron, can you hear us?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, DPW is here.
Perfect. Thank you.
The highway end, these little bitty storms continue to use our salt up at, same rates as what we don't like to see. So far though, we've used 319 tons of salt. It's about the same as what most last year's are. The biggest thing is 22 inches of snow to date, somewhere around 13 events. So it's more that we're using our salt up based on all this icing and non-accumulating events. Sanding be the same thing, getting the sand out on the roads. The events that keep happening on the weekend are beating up the morale of the guys a little bit. Doing our best to try and keep them encouraged and keep the roads as open as we can when we do. The grants and aid equipment grant, we were not denied. We were not approved for funding due to lack of funds. We've been put on the wait list with the possibility of funding coming around next funding cycle, but there's no guarantee of that. We're hoping that if that funding comes available, we are approved then to be funded for that leaf blower. But as of now, it's been denied. Boys are working, trying to keep trucks together and responding to storms. The cold has a hard time keeping that stuff all wanted to just rear and keep going. So they had one of the trucks went down Sunday. They're working on putting that back together. But overall, the equipment's been holding up fairly well. Water plant, the guys last week took down side 2 clarifier, same as they had done early spring for clarifier 1. Took that down and cleaned it. Hadn't been cleaned in numerous years. Got that all cleaned back up online. The side 1 handled the flow through the plant just fine without a hiccup during that point. Got our list in for the ARPA stuff with some monies estimated for some projects we're looking to do on that, both water plant and water line wise. We have talked with the state. They are going to be paving Route 22A from the New York line to the American Legion, where the state highway ends there, as well as from just north of Lewis Lane north to Orwell next late summer, fall time. We have talked with the state a little bit, as well as Aldridge and Elliott, about the possibility of trying to get our water line connection made of 8-inch on the north end of Washington Street up there by McDonald's. Trying to work that out still, see if there's a possibility we can find the money and get that work completed before that paving is done. Most of that work would be subterranean work. We would probably not be allowed to open cut due to it being a state highway, but we want to make sure that we try and get that line in beforehand in case there is a chance we run into an issue and they do have to do some digging to get that line completed. We'll have more information on that when we get more finalized stuff from the state and from the engineering firm on what it would even look like to try and do that yet this year before that paving. Sewer wise, the plant upgrade still going as well as it can. There's still equipment issues and delays. We have our monthly meeting tomorrow, so we're hoping to get a new schedule as to when equipment's supposed to arrive. A lot of stuff that was supposed to show up December, I don't believe still has. The start of this week wasn't so hot for manpower. Unfortunately, I think the wave of the virus is possibly taking its toll on the workforce around here as of now. I know that to be the case in a few places I've called for either parts or otherwise, that manpower is running low as this new wave comes through. But the plant itself had a small issue with the electrical or the beginning of last week. We were able to get that figured out and straightened out. They were doing a bunch of electrical work underground, and we needed a bit more grounding to get some electrical interference taken away from the chart recording system that records how much water is leaving the plant. That's needed for state permit. We did make the state aware that it wasn't operational for a few days, and they are fully understanding that it was nothing that could be avoided with all the work that's being done down there. They're happy that we have it fixed and got it back up and running. Otherwise, hopefully after tomorrow's meeting, we'll have a better idea of how the plant upgrades progress is going to keep continuing. I think that's all I have for now.
Nate, have anything to add, or?
Good. Thanks, Aaron.
Perfect. PD or Joe?
Okay,
Or
we'll
did
do
you
the
have a
police
question?
department first. We'll start out with the police chief. We're congratulating Bill Humphreys on his 18th year as police chief in the town of Fairhaven.
Nice.
Yep. We couldn't do what we do without Bill Humphreys. He's been, when I came on board, kind of a mentor, letting me know how things operate, and still today he gives me some good advice. Continuing with our anniversaries, Mr. David Ricard spending his 18th year here with the town of Fairhaven. He's a part-time officer. You see him walking around the concerts. And James Bassong, also a part-timer. This is his 4th year.
Who's that?
James Bassong. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
For the police business, they had two arrests in the last 2 weeks. Wanted person and then driving a suspended license. The police are still working on their working under their mask mandate. If they go to homes or do car stops, everybody's still wearing their mask just to be safe during the COVID outbreak. Something that has benefited us from the COVID pandemic is that we continue to do fingerprints for civilian jobs, for example, the school. A lot of folks have stopped doing, a lot of police departments have stopped doing that, so we've seen our revenues bump up pretty strong. Now we have more people coming in getting fingerprints, which is great. We like to see that. The chief wanted to acknowledge the passing, I guess everybody, the town of Fairhaven in general, wanted to acknowledge the passing of Bunny Ruby recently. The chief wanted to say that Mr. Ruby was a huge supporter of local government and the police department in particular. His printing business supplied to town reports for many, many years, as well as various documents for the police, including the parking ticket. So he's the police department in the town of Fairhaven will miss Mr. Ruby. And New Year's Eve, nice and quiet, although we don't like to say that. No incidents on that day. That's all we got for the police. Moving on to town manager.
Takes me a minute to turn the page. Sorry.
We reminded our committees, commissions, and other departments that ARPA suggestions were due in on the 7th, and we got a nice big list of wants.
Good.
Yeah, no, it's some good stuff that maybe others wouldn't have thought of. So
Right.
it's really great to see. A lot of engagement this time.
From whom?
Everyone.
Yeah, everyone, committees and commissions.
Oh, okay.
The American Legion, for example, would like to see the cannon refurbished,
Mm.
which I thought that's not a bad idea. As a heads up, we talked a couple weeks ago, the tax sale is continuing on the 24th for that trailer. That's before the next meeting. Solar project, we leased land to a solar company at the transfer station. That project will be up and running. That project will be starting to be built in the spring, so we'll start to see some movement down there. I did sit in on a federal meeting about ARPA guidance. Sounds like the Fed really kind of loosened restrictions on this, on the funding. So we're waiting for, it's a 500-page document. I read the part that was specific to us. VLCT is digging in deeper, and they're gonna hold another webinar to kind of hash it out. But it sounds like it's gonna be a lot easier to use this money than we thought originally. I spoke to Linda Barker late last week or early this week or yesterday. We're scheduling a grand opening for in May for the dog park. We'll have hot dogs.
Nice.
Yeah. Hot dogs are my favorite food. Yeah, I know.
It's not right.
I don't think.
Better the kibble.
I did get a question about the upgrades to town hall. They said, well, what are you really doing, or what are you doing? Because things have changed over time. We're still doing an ADA compliant restroom on the second floor. The elevator is still going in. A sprinkler system is going in on the second floor and above in the fire department bay, because it's below the congregation, the area where people congregate. And then corridor improvements. They have to be so many hour fire resistant, so those are going in too. When we started this project back in 2017, 2018, it was a lot bigger. It was heating, it was floor refurbishment, wall refurbishment, and the cost of supplies and labor have just squashed this project. We'll still be able to get the key components complete, but the bells and whistles had to be kind of cut out.
So we're
Can I
not,
ask a question? Does that mean we don't get an ADA compliant restroom on this floor,
There is one ADA compliant on the first floor.
and the second floor?
There will be one on the second floor.
Because the one in there now, that's ADA compliant? That's hard to believe.
Not the lady, the lady/men's room. There's two restrooms, one is ADA compliant.
Okay, I must be looking at the wrong one.
Yeah, the other one is definitely not.
Yeah.
the HVAC, the heat pumps, they're not going in?
Heat pumps that was never part of the original
Oh,
plan. It
okay.
was kind of, if we got the money, we're gonna drop them in there.
Okay.
We did want to put in a new furnace, because this one was stuck in back in the 80s, and that sucker's, it's, we don't owe that thing anything. It's done well.
But I asked the question last time, you said there's no real problem with that.
No, it's running strong.
Okay.
Yeah, no, but it is, 40 years old. We did not, speaking of, we did not receive the extra $100,000 for town hall updates, so we're still looking for more money to do that extra. I talked to the school, and we can use the school library, the graded school library, for our informational meeting on February 28th. I've called the Legion twice, and I keep missing Pam, so the plan is still to vote at the Legion. I just want to confirm with them. I don't want to presume anything. I'll call her back tomorrow. And we had applied for a zoning, update to our zoning ordinances. That was also not funded, so we're batting 0 for 2 on our grant funding. And so just to keep the board in the loop, the EDC did meet the first Monday of this month, and we are still working on the Declaration of Inclusion. So that Glenn drafted a rough draft, the first draft. The board the committee took a look at that, and they'll keep plugging away at it. And last but not least, if the board had a chance to look at the local option tax information sheet, I did.
And there's copies.
Yep, there's copies in the back. If you had edits, so I'd like to start sending these out tomorrow. So, any additional suggestions?
I think I sent you my edits already, so.
Yep, I did make a couple of edits, and I found a couple of typos that we fixed in there too.
Good. All set?
That's all I have.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So we'll get our changes to you by tomorrow or forever hold our peace.
If you could get them in the morning,
Is
I
that
would
what
be
I'm hearing?
appreciated. Yeah.
That's, and our first informational meeting for the local option tax is the 25th.
Yes. January 25th is the first at 6 p.m. and then the second is a week later, or the next meeting, February 8th.
That's here.
It's, yep, right here, just before the next, an hour before the meetings.
Okay.
Are those gonna be,
Local option tax.
Public.
Local option tax.
are those gonna be by Zoom too, or just, you have to show up in person?
I'll zoom
You
in.
can do both.
Okay.
Both, yeah.
Moving on to old business, general fund allocation.
Yeah, so I really gotta eat this one. I made a mistake when I talked to the board at the last meeting. I apologize. I used a number that was too high when we were talking about the allocations. I said the fund balance was, for example, the general fund balance, I said it was 265,809. In reality, it was 196,809. I did not subtract out the committed funds that were voted in by the voters of Fairhaven. For the general fund decision of moving $150,000 that into the grant match, that caused us trouble because that would bring our general fund balance down below that 100,000 mark that we were trying to keep. For DPW, I talked to Jenny about this stuff, these funds. She was still comfortable using $50,000 moved to DPW, as it brought you down a little bit below 100, but not, it was $4,000. And she was comfortable keeping that money at like 96,000. Today, I guess I need to ask the board, would you like to change the allocations?
You're talking from what we originally had, change it to the 96,809 because that's what we have now?
The 96,000, moving the 96,809 to grant match would leave you at the $100,000 mark that folks are comfortable with.
Versus what we voted on last time. with
Versus
the 150.
the 150 is what you're asking.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And again, I need to take full responsibility for that one. I looked at the wrong number and I gave the board the wrong number.
I think that's where, that's where we are. My only other comment would be, so with all the discussion we had, it's so critical to have the 150 in grant match during this time of all the other funding, that I think we moved the 96 there, but we still need to get it back to somewhere where we have 150 there. And I'd propose that when we do the warning a little later, right underneath where we put 50,000 in for paving, we put it out and let the voters say, hey, would you like 50,000 for grant match? And at our town meeting, we can explain it's because this, with all the infrastructure funding and everything, we need grant match to be up there, or we're gonna probably miss some opportunities to get quite a bit of money. I don't know what the rest feel about it, but.
Thoughts?
I think the board should make a decision and say we want it or don't want it, but don't ask the voters to vote on another $50,000. We either feel strongly about it or we don't feel strongly about it. I'd like to know with that, if we did do an additional 50,000, what does it mean to the percentage and, to the percentage increase to the budget?
If we added that to.
If we added it.
It wouldn't change the select board budget at all.
No, he's saying if it was in our general fund budget.
If to go
We
back
added-
and put it,
If we added it.
instead of 3.6.
Right, I mean, took the 96 and do what Glenn said, put another 50,000, what does it do to the percentage?
Right. It's gonna go up.
It's,
Yeah,
No,
well, I'm
it's
sorry.
it's
How
gonna
much
go.
does it make it go up?
let's see.
I wasn't sure how much information you needed.
Yeah, right. I mean, we were at
I can give you a percent.
4%.
You were 3.65.
3.65% is what we
okay.
agreed on for the budget.
Right.
And if you add 50,000,
I have a sense of how many dollars it takes to add a penny to the tax base, but I don't have a sense of how much money
50,000.
it makes it, go up percentage-wise.
Bear with me 1 second.
Hmm?
I'm talking to myself,
Oh.
figuring something out.
yeah, because you either add it in, ask the voters to vote appropriations,
Oh, don't.
or go cut, or don't do anything, or go and try to find and cut 50,000, which we've cut everything just as,
I can't,
I don't think there's 50,000.
There isn't
I don't have a
50,000 there
feeling
to
until I know what the percentage is.
That brings it up to 5.83%.
It's huge.
I knew that was gonna be around 6%. I didn't know it, but I just had a sense that it was
Yeah.
gonna be up around 6%. And
It's
I
significant.
think if we're asking the voters to vote something down, that's what we gotta do.
well, yeah, I mean, the risk you come in, and is saying, as a taxpayer, if you tell me, will I vote yes for 5 point something? No, I won't.
Right.
But if, as a taxpayer, when I get on appropriations, to make the decision of whether, that's why I propose you put it into the appropriations, let the taxpayer say, understand the impact's gonna be that 50,000 is going in, and it will be 5%. So if you say yes there, it's gonna be 5%.
So that 5.85% that's assuming that all the appropriations get approved?
No.
Or that pre-appropriations?
That's just the select board budget.
Right.
It's a
So it's
tough.
gonna be north of, whatever we vote on, it's gonna be north of that by some number, based upon the track
Appropriations.
record of voting on appropriations.
Agreed.
Um,
Yep.
um,
It's an the discussion comes up because it's such an interesting time with all the grant funds that are gonna be available.
Yeah,
That's the
I know.
idea behind it, just in case that wasn't clear
yeah, oh yeah.
in our
Yeah.
public. There are gonna be some opportunities to turn not short dollars, but a small amount of grant match money into a larger amount of projects getting done.
Well,
Just throwing it out there.
yep.
I think everybody knows where I am on it, so.
With the, I understand the whole
But
concept of trying to make $1 spend like $5,
yeah,
okay? But this is a window of time, okay? Based upon my limited experience, I see these grant-related projects take far more than 1 year to even come close to not only spending money, but
agreed.
to get the project off the ground. So I question whether we should throw all of this towards the grant match fund in 1 year if we have a very small amount of confidence that we'll actually use it. So if we went to use the 96.
Yep.
Yep.
Is it really stopping us from going forward?
Good point.
Probably not.
'Cause, I mean, I've
I
seen
don't-
these grant
Yeah,
projects, they take 3 years.
We
They
could
take
then,
at
at
least
budget
3 years.
time next year,
We have a better sense of what we
Yeah.
really need to take advantage of those
Yeah.
$5 for every dollar of ours.
Okay,
That being an example, I don't know that we're gonna get $5 of value for every dollar of ours, but
Right.
that's roughly 20%.
Mhm.
So that's the only, the question I have.
No, I
Do
think
we
that's
load it up knowing that we probably won't need it next year, in this budget cycle?
Yeah, after
Budget
hearing,
cycle we're talking about.
after hearing that it would, putting it in there either way, having it go in, either way, it's gonna be about over 5% increase. I'm back to just the 96,809. Sounds, I agree, if that's what you're proposing, I agree with you.
Do you need a motion to change this?
I do, I need the motion and the approval, yeah.
And do you have any comments?
I really, I apologize, this is very embarrassing, so again, I'm sorry.
So I'll make the motion that we put in the general fund balance, we add for the grant match of $96,809. And it keeps us pretty close to that threshold, but I'll make that motion. Change it from the 150.
Did we make a motion the last meeting to accept? So do we have to back out that motion first?
No, I think we
don't
can
know.
just,
Just to change it?
Just
change it,
change
okay.
If the auditors come in and look, it's
Yeah.
easily
There's a
explainable,
trail.
especially with the discussion.
Mhm.
is there a second?
Second.
To add 96,000.
No,
To change, to put 96,809 into the grant match
Reserve.
To change
reserve.
to change the question.
Change from the 150 that we had before.
Right.
Yep.
Oh.
Cause it was, the 150
So
was
you're
an
not
error.
adding it to.
No,
No.
No, there was an error made, we didn't have 150 to put there.
right.
All we have is 96,809. So I'm saying that we
Use what we have.
use what we have.
Yep.
That's correct.
Motion by Glenn, seconded by Rod, to change the amount of general fund balance used from 150 to 96,809. And that leaves our budget at that same 3.65% increase,
It does.
It does.
That doesn't
So we don't
affect the
have,
budget.
we don't have to read.
just for the record. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye?
Motion carries. General fund allocation. Appointment to, nothing else on that, right?
Yes.
Appointment to the planning commission.
Yep, so, Ms. Linda Sinkowitz, she's here tonight. She did go meet with the planning commission. They were very enthusiastic to have her join. So, if the board is, so inclined, you'll have to increase the number of the planning commissioners to 6 and then appoint Ms. Sinkowitz, am I saying that right? Sinkowitz to the commission.
Two different motions or can
Two
you do
different
all?
motions.
Go ahead.
You need to expand it and then add somebody to it.
Right. So, I'll make a motion to expand the planning commission from 5 to 6.
I have a question. There is a possibility that we might have a 7th member. So would it be,
If you don't,
What is the planning commission?
what did they direct us to do?
I don't know about number 7, all I know about is number 6.
Okay.
Nobody's mentioned 7 to me.
okay,
That's
I
tomorrow's
just knew
Yeah,
that
that's-
you wanted it.
that's on Friday.
I knew that you wanted it kind of an odd number if possible, so that's.
Odd number
It's easier when voting.
is easier
Yeah.
for voting. I'm just interested in the board changing size so often. And I understand that it's because there's interest, there is an interest, but I'm wondering if it's easier to stay in the lower number and keep it full
Okay.
than to have 7 and have an empty spots once in a while. But if it's the planning commission's wish to go up, it just
Yes.
seems like doing it twice a year is not the best practice. But I have a motion on the table do I have one? You didn't finish. did
Well,
Motion on the
right,
table.
I made the motion.
Carol
to go-
seconded.
Yep. Motion on the table to go to 6, seconded by Carol.
Yep.
And I started discussing prematurely. Any other discussion? Chris is better at this.
You're doing great.
No, you're doing good.
No discussion. All those in favor?
I
Same people? Who made the motion?
I made the motion,
Motion,
it was
second.
seconded by
To,
Carol,
to expand to 6.
to expand to 6.
To expand, yes, but now you're,
Now I'm going to
Now-
make a motion to appoint Linda Sinkowitz to the Planning Commission.
Motion by Glenn to appoint Linda to the planning commission to fill the vacant new 6th
It-
spot.
Yeah.
Seconded by Carol. Any other discussion? Do we need to advertise that position?
I wouldn't imagine, no.
Okay. Just discussion?
And under the discussion part, I'd say that if another person, because we have a hard time having people
Uh-huh.
volunteer, if another person raises their hand and says, we would come back if the planning commission said, because it's the same number,
There
whether
is
you have
a
6 or 7 for the quorum, I understand.
Yeah.
What you're saying here, they would come back, we'd have to do 2 motions again, and we'd bring it to 7. If there's someone, don't hold
Don't-
up.
Ex-
If anyone is
Exactly.
interested, they should be contacting the planning commission and letting them know about their interest, sure.
Or Joe?
Or Joe, sure.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Bye,
Aye. You got yourself a job.
welcome.
Thank
Can
you.
I get sworn in tomorrow?
Now you just gotta go see Suzanne. Yep.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
We'll take the Freeman out.
Expand to 6. And Linda. Okay.
Not being a stickler for details, but do we have to adjust the budget for now more people in that?
An extra $200.
We'll find it.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's fine.
I mean, good point, yeah.
but yes, you would normally, but I think there's enough.
Did you get paid for that one?
Moving right along to new business and revenue review.
Yep, so, revenues are done, and I guess that's it. Revenues are up a little bit. Usually, I've had the experience of having them come down gradually over the last few years. So I was happy to see we have a, oh, that doesn't look good. A small increase. I think it's like $100. Every little bit.
Yep. I knew I had it in here somewhere.
Were you going to talk or go through those, or what was the process on revenue?
Yeah, if the board has questions, it's cut and dry. It doesn't change a lot, $100 here, a little bit there.
I just had the one question on the current real property tax. It looked like the actuals that were there before in the budget and then the proposed for 23
Yep, that's blank.
was blank.
That's intentionally blank. So we don't know what what we're really gonna raise for property tax until all of the appropriations are passed or not passed. So that number will change based on if only one appropriation passes or if they all pass. So it's a misleading number to put that in here now.
So when I look at the difference, because there's a large difference because it's not in there,
Exactly.
when you say the revenues are up, the revenues are up if appropriations about like they're always have been? See, when you don't have a number in there, I'm just,
I think he means the revenue beyond to be raised by taxes, I think.
Yeah, so that's what we're gonna tax people for, is that line there. Everything below that line are the services we provide that
Income
people pay us
streams.
for, yeah.
Yep.
okay, so, but you must have statistically, so you don't try to do
You can.
so I just looked in and I'm saying, well, wait a minute, it looks like,
Sometimes we put that
There's-
number.
yeah, it looks like the actual
Never
is
did.
right around 14 for the last couple of times. Yeah, and and it looks like the budget was 14. I'm just surprised we're not putting 14 there, and
Just
leaving it as.
To compare.
Yeah, it was more of a question. I'm not,
No.
it just seemed like, when we, then when I come back, I'm saying, I know it's based on the difference between what you agree on. Then yeah, I get to the last page and I'm saying, okay, so the bottom line is, the revenues, look like that, the last actual was, cause you can't really get a good number without having the one up.
Agreed.
So I look at the whole thing and I'm going,
How do I?
how do I walk away saying yes or no? Because I'm not even swagging something in. But I mean, if that's, but if that's what we do in the past, I'm going,
The confusing part about this is, and this is something I struggled with for the first 3 years, is that this is only for the selectmen's budget, which is, we're only talking about that second article. If you put your appropriations in there as a revenue, then it's kind of like you're double dipping in your article, right? Then you'll have all of the appropriations sitting in Article 2, and then people will vote on the following article, so it'd be like you'd be voting on it twice.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
yeah,
So, and that's why that money is not there.
yeah, it looked odd.
It's
It is, yeah,
to Glenn's point, it's very tough to compare.
yes.
Uh,
It's
well-
not the easiest thing to do.
Well, I'm just trying to say if I were to make a statement, I think my revenues are up. No, I don't really, I can't tell you if my revenues are up. I can't show you that they're up because I don't have the data. But I understand what you're saying. It looks like, would it be fair to say our revenues look to be at least as good as it was a year ago, and it might be a little better,
Yes,
is what we're forecasting?
Yes.
I mean, that's what we're saying.
yes.
Okay, I'm good there then.
Do you want to go through, or just specific questions?
Yeah,
How
I'll
do you
just
wanna
give you
do that?
questions, but if I can just talk through each line, and
Talk.
if you see something.
And then we'll jump.
Okay, so, we did increase penalties and interests. We've seen an increase in that over the last year. And that's because we've just been diligent collecting those things. We've been much better on our taxes, tax sales, just hammering that stuff on.
So at some point, does that drop back down because you've collected?
It might, yeah. Or people might just decide not to pay their taxes anymore, and we just continue.
Okay.
It's a function of if people pay on time.
Okay.
Pilot, we did see an increase in the pilot line. That's that state money that's money from the state. That's up a little bit. I did reach out to the state to ask about some of this funding that they send to us. I asked them, can I expect to see this in the future, or should I flat fund? State is unresponsive, so we're going with averages. Same with hold harmless, also from the state, that's up a little bit. Our permits and licenses, that stayed flat. Our zoning board of adjustment fees, those have also stayed flat. Town clerk fees, those are up just a little bit, $450, and that's all based on average and usage. Transfer station user fees. So this actually has been ticking up pretty steadily over the last 3 years. I've been leery to raise it as much as I did, but this year it seemed to behoove us to do that. It seems like the trend is consistent at this point. 1 year blips makes me worry about moving revenues, but 3 years seems safe. Punch card sales, weirdly enough, are down.
And can we go back to West Haven service fee? A year ago, we talked about it's been 16,000 forever. Is it, everything else is going up? I'm just saying, is it reasonable to say, no, and I'll probably get, snowballs thrown at me for saying this from people from West
Only
Haven, but
from
I'm
West
saying,
Haven.
is it reasonable to say we move that up to maybe 20,000, or, I'm just saying, they, one heck of a deal for, since 2018, I bet it was probably 16,000 before that. that everything else goes up, but that hasn't, and I don't know if they're paying their proportionate share by not having that increase. I just know what the rest of the board thinks.
Do you think we should do that or start that
I-
conversation
well,
before?
We sat here a year ago saying,
Said
oh,
the same
we
thing.
can't drop it on them right there or anything, let's have conversations, and
We
we're
didn't.
back here with 16 again. So I'm going, they've got, between now and July 1, where this goes in, they've got 6 months to decide if they don't like an increase, finding another alternative. But I'm just saying, it just seems like,
I'd rather
I don't know.
put it on the agenda to talk about next time and find out what is 16,000. I don't know how many people are using it, what's the usage rate, and then if we need to increase it, give them a notification for next year.
Well, we could increase it midstream. It's just, or for the fiscal year, we just,
I don't know what 16,000 means.
Maybe we
I've done
don't-
that for so long, I don't know what it's based on.
Personally, I
It's
think
a
we should adjust it every contract negotiation.
And
If
we're
we
doing
see
it
a
right now.
10% just using numbers, if we see a 10% uptick in our contract, that number should go up 10%.
Absolutely.
Okay, and it's every 3 years.
That'd be a good way to do it.
Okay, and it, by the same token, if it goes down 10%,
We
they
bo-
should see
we-
a benefit.
We move it down.
Yeah.
so let's just,
That seems to be the fairest, to me, the fairest way.
Yeah, it covers labor cost at least.
Yeah.
It just didn't look, when I looked at it, it just didn't look fair the way we've been doing it.
yeah, that does.
And we are doing, aren't we doing a hauler RFP that's out there right now?
It's out.
So we will have some real
You-
data.
My recommendation would be to advise them that we are in a contract negotiation. Based upon everything else, it may go up to match the increase that we're gonna see in the contract.
I think that's a solid way to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go up and
I don't
down
think
as,
anyone
And
can
it-
really
for the.
We may have
I
argue
agree.
that.
We may have a
reasonably.
small amount of unbudgeted revenue if it goes up,
Yeah, right.
but it just offsets what is budgeted
It's
anyway.
fair to do
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, cemeteries, cemetery is flat, no increase there. Animal control also, no increase. Air park revenue, we haven't seen any revenue there for years. Police revenue's down a little bit. I couldn't bring myself to budget that 25,000. It seemed just much too high. Maybe they'll get back into the swing and we'll start seeing more ticketing, but I didn't want to overshoot that number. I don't know what COVID looks like in a year.
The actual for 2021 was 24,000, though. I saw that one, and my only question was, it looks like, we get complaints about speeding on West Street, speeding on Main Street and everything, and then we don't ticket. So, I think 24,000 would be about the right number. But, because when I look at historically at the actual before, it's again because we have an approach in Fairhaven that says don't ticket. Sooner or later, that gets you with nobody's worried about being pulled over because they're not gonna get a ticket. Now, I may sound like
Well,
Scrooge after Christmas, but I'm
Just a
still,
little.
well, I still think that the police budget is a high budget, and they only have a few levers for revenue. I don't want it to be a revenue stream like Bridgewater, but also I don't want someone to think I can go flying down West Street with no worry about getting a ticket. They might pull me over. I'll be annoyed that I have to be stopped for a while, but I won't get a ticket, so
I'm sure that they straddle the line between community policing and otherwise, and Bridgewater.
So for that number, Glenn, I felt the same way, but again, if revenues are floating for a couple of years and I see a spike, I'm very hesitant to then raise it up to that spike level, because if we short ourselves on tax revenue, then you're
No,
eating into your general fund at the end of the year. And that was the theory behind that.
So
Okay.
what was the
Next year,
theory
if we-
behind 17? Why did you pick 17?
It's average,
Okay.
the average of 3.
Average of 3? So you
I-
went back
see,
and
I
put
was-
the 12 in?
12, 15, 24, yeah.
Yeah, and I would call the 12 a little more of an outlier.
We budgeted 25 in 2021, we budgeted 25 in 21, 22. I'm still sitting there saying, can't understand why we're not budgeting
24?
20,
23?
I thought 24, saying if 20, our actual came to 24, when we budgeted 25, we had 24,305. So it sounds like we worked to where you set the bar. And I think we're setting the bar too low. That's my only comment.
Based on the averages and the historicals, if I was doing it on the averages, it'd be 20.
Yeah,
And
I feel more.
Because I would discount the 12.
Yes, easily discount the 12. That was just not doing any ticketing. I could live with 20, but I think it should be higher. I don't think we have the bar high enough.
do you
Because
think?
speeding tickets, the only deterrent, the ticketing is the only deterrent you have. And the complaints we hear about, let's put the cart on West Street, let's put the cart here. I know on Scotch Hill, it's a racetrack. So you've got to have a deterrent.
All you're doing is saying stay status quo. Do what you did this year. You're not saying do more.
Oh, that's
your comment.
that's what I'm
right?
saying. But it looked
Just making
like,
sure that everyone who can't see
it
that
looked like we were going to do less
does look like.
enforcement when I looked at it. I'm saying, I don't want less enforcement. I'd like to see, because the speeds, once you start ticketing, the speeds will slow down. If there's no,
Did Bill have any input?
Although I didn't ask either, so.
I didn't know what he had. Sometimes he gives you a number and then department heads give you a number and sometimes it's edited. Some
no, but that's,
not on revenue.
Revenues are, well, no, revenues are pretty, they seem to be pretty
Static.
flat. These spikes at the end of the day, if we're, $7,000 or $8,000 short on police revenue, it's gotta come from somewhere. And if it comes out of your general fund, that's what it would be.
Well, that does tend to be where our surpluses come from, unanticipated revenue, which is
again, I come back from day one when I got on the board and talked about, I don't think the town does enough in trying to generate revenue, and that equates to being able to keep our tax rate down and making it more affordable to live here. So all I'm saying is that I think sometimes you can look at your revenue items and we don't look at them quite as hard as we should. That's all.
Glenn's at 25. Any thoughts?
I'm good with it.
I can do the 20. I can support the 20. I just
20?
want to get that thing up a little.
Consensus of 20, Joe.
Okay, we're moving ticketing with fines to 20,000.
With the caveat that that's a minimum goal. Correct?
Yeah,
Well, I think the goal is to make the streets
Safer.
safer.
it's a safe,
Yes.
yeah, whatever, I mean, you're right. I'm
If-
not looking
If
just
that number
to.
goes to 50, well, that's what it took to make them safer. If it only goes to 5,
Yeah.
then we started out safer to begin with.
Yeah,
And I think we could justify that philosophy.
Constable fines, we also reduced that a little bit. They're just not, an actual 2021 was 0. SRO services, that number will flux based on what the school budgets and what the number of hours an SRO does spend, but again, I'm taking averages.
But that number is a wash, so as long as it's the same as the other one,
Yes.
it will continue to be a wash.
Yep, so revenues for SRO and expenses for SRO
It's even.
wash.
we actually make,
Yeah, we'll make a little bit of money,
We
just
make
to
money,
cover our expenses on
No.
the administrative side.
But they move together.
Yeah.
So
they move together.
Reports and permits also down a little bit, and then K-9 reimbursement also down just a little bit. And I think that might be a function of COVID. We might see that go back up next year, but again. Interest income, we didn't hit the 10,000 we anticipated, but I hear interest rates are going up, so we left that flat. Miscellaneous income, that's literally just miscellaneous, anything that pops into town. I did reduce that a little bit. Insurance reimbursement, we increased that to stay with the averages, up 500. And that the utilization of surplus is 0, so in the budget. So that is 010.
Do you anticipate tax sale reimbursement? That one's very hard to track. So.
So the tax sale, we have 6,000 in there. Yeah, we've been staying pretty steady on our tax sales, so yeah, there'll be a little bit there. The number of tax sales we've had to do and the number of delinquent taxes have come down drastically.
Yep.
We've really beat that list up, so, which is a good thing. For public works, state aid to highways, that again, I dropped 90 in there. Last year, 90 seemed to be a good number. Last year they did give us 114. I called the state to see if that was a number that was going to stay inflated or not. Again, no response. I hate to drop like $20,000 into revenue and not get it because the state decided it wasn't our year. So that was up a little bit. And then miscellaneous revenue is up a little bit, 6,000, and that's just to stay with our averages.
What's miscellaneous revenue?
I had a list, I knew you were gonna ask. DPW miscellaneous revenue, so, for example, when, we sold water at the park, we had to have a DPW guy standing there. That money comes into offset, and they can profit like that,
Okay.
yeah.
In this other, the utilization of surplus, that's gonna go in after it's voted?
So the utilization of surplus is used when you drop it, you drop your surplus into the budget to buy
Okay,
value tax.
alright.
So, you know,
So we didn't do that, yeah. So you need a motion?
You're right, that's what I was wanting to, you
No?
don't need a motion on this, right?
This is gonna change the warning a little bit.
Okay.
So we'll bring the warning back, we'll bring the revenues back on the 14th, and
Okay.
that'll, now the revenues don't match your warning right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll bring both back on Friday, the 14th, for final review.
I think it's the 14th.
Sorry, we had a meeting on the 14th?
Yes, to approve the
That's the last day.
articles. That's the last day, and, you know.
Next week.
Friday.
Nope, this week,
Oh, this week.
this Friday, I don't know, is that 6 or 7?
7.
7 o'clock.
My wife is very upset.
7, you said?
Why?
This is my 3rd meeting this week.
Oh,
Yeah. Just hold on, town manager's happy.
I'm bringing my children.
She loves cake.
That'll speed it up. Okay. Review of the warning.
Okay, so the review of the warning, Article 2, that is the selectmen's budget, knows the anticipated revenue will go up a little bit on that.
Mhm.
Will offset what we have to tax. Per request, the authorization of cannabis retail is Article 4. That's, I think there's a typo, it's a little offset, we're gonna fix that before we send it out. Article 5 is the local option tax. Article 6 is the local option tax, that's the charter portion of this vote. And then the rest are requested appropriations down to, including Article 23.
Now, is this warning, this is what they did last year, is this what you want us, what we want to, right now is what we're looking at, that we'd be reviewing and approving on the 14th?
Yes.
Okay, from what I'm reading, good.
And then Article 24 is the 50,000 additional paving, requesting voters to approve 50,000 in extra paving.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, in a nutshell, what it is. I am waiting on, the rescue squad to send me their, this is interesting. To finish the thought, I'm waiting on the rescue squad to finish or send in their request. In 2017, there was an article on the ballot that said, shall the Fairhaven voters, then I'm gonna paraphrase, let the Fairhaven Rescue Squad put in their appropriations without getting signatures. I remember this vote, that was like my first week on board. I remember this vote being for taxes, property taxes. And if you look in the minutes, that's what the discussion was this is for property tax. When you look at the actual vote, it says appropriations.
It says appropriations.
So that is not a binding vote, but the voters did say that they would respect Fairhaven Rescue Squad not needing to receive signatures.
This was in 17?
I signed a petition for the rescue today.
Yeah, they're out there getting it.
Did
I
they,
thought it was
are
for
they,
taxes.
are they increasing their amount? From 128 to 208? Because then if they're increasing,
I don't know, I didn't.
they would
read-
need,
Tell you the truth, I didn't read it, it was kind of fast.
Oh, okay.
Sign this, okay?
Just said it's a petition for the rescue squad, and I signed all petitions no matter what, whether or not I agree.
I thought I saw your name on one of those.
Joe, why did you say that it was non-binding?
Because it's not binding to the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen could still require signatures.
Well, wait a minute,
After
if the
voters-
voters give us a specific direction, I take that as binding,
Well, probably.
that's personally.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. I'm just saying legally, I agree with you, Rod, that if the voters say do this, well, I just got a petition to get me fired, so I would disagree with that one. But for this one, I would agree that you should probably stick with it.
So, for the warnings, right now, we have 3, I think you were saying, Rescue Squad, Fairhaven Concerns, and ARC, that are,
They didn't fit the criteria.
they didn't fit our new policy. I hear you saying, and they're out trying to get signatures. And I'm looking, saying, none of them are going, I don't know about, I can't say for rescue squads, I haven't seen it yet, but hopefully it's not going up. If it is, okay, that's another thing altogether, but the 3 we have, some of them, and the one I'll talk directly to is the Fairhaven Concerns, because I got a phone call on that one saying, hey, we handed in a list saying this is what we do. You're telling us we gotta get signatures because we can't tell you how many, and don't let me step wrong here, but it's basically, we need more detail. We need to know how many Fairhaven people. And I'm just going, well, wait a minute. If this is the first year they passed something in, we have COVID going on, and we're out there making groups jump through hoops to get signatures, I'm not comfortable with that. Not when they're talking up in Montpelier about saying, but if you need signatures for a library trustee, a school board or whatever, they're getting ready to say, don't worry about it because it's COVID. For us to be, we're down to 3.
You think you're nitpicking?
I think we're nitpicking a little. I would feel comfortable. I would feel comfortable with saying, hey, look, these are the rules. I'm not saying break the rules. I'm saying because of COVID-19, I think if anyone is out there and they're trying to go door to door with the way this thing is going, and we're putting them at risk, I'm not comfortable telling them to go and do that right now. I'm ready to say, but understand those 3 groups that we had that didn't give us the information, that when we told them, because I think it's the right thing you did. I'm not saying you didn't do the right thing, because you're saying the rules have changed. We have an appropriations policy that says we need to have a little more detail, and that is just where's our money going, where's the help? I'm all for letting those 3 organizations are on notice that it doesn't get on next year. Hopefully, we're gonna be out of this COVID thing we're in. But, I'm not ready to say, I'm not gonna put, especially when our, for the Fairhaven Concerns, it's a huge chunk of their budget. We just can't not put them on there, so. I think we gotta treat everyone the same. We gotta treat ARC, the rescue squad. I don't wanna make a separate decision, so I don't know what everyone else feels, but.
If the number hasn't changed, I agree with you. But
If the
let's
numbers-
just say that ARC tripled, I don't know that this is the case, ARC tripled their request. There's gotta be some reasonableness in the request.
Agreed.
Now, ARC is probably the smallest of those
Nope.
3.
Yeah, it was $3,500, and
Yeah,
it was
So
flat funded.
that's not a big deal.
ARC was flat funded, Fairhaven Concerns was flat funded. What I can't speak to, because I don't know if the rescue squad, I haven't seen theirs,
But it sounds like they're in through loophole B.
but even if they went up through the fact that they forevermore, type of a thing here, it's gonna be an interesting.
You don't know, Joe, if they're gonna ask for more or not?
I don't know, I reached
Okay.
out twice
I know
and just
you
let them
did-
know.
Yeah.
I will say I'm disappointed that we had the rescue squad scheduled at least once or twice this year to come talk to us,
Yeah.
and they didn't come in. If they're not there at town meeting day to answer some questions, and because $128,208 is a lot of money, that's another discussion we need to have, but probably in 2022. It's not prior to this.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not making excuses and I don't know how they run, but working at the hospital where COVID is rampant, we don't have
You're busy.
EMS to transport anybody. No, EMS is way, way down everywhere. It's terrible. So maybe they're running under extreme circumstances. I don't know that. I'm guessing they are, so I think for this year, we probably should try to make some accommodations based on those thoughts, but I'm in the thick of it and it's rough.
Busy.
Yeah.
Is this a consensus or do you need a vote?
I would appreciate a vote if you're not gonna require a petition. It's going contrary to what we had
Policy.
discussed,
I'll-
just like
I'll-
3 meetings ago.
I'll
That
make
said,
a
I would
motion.
like to know what the number is though. I mean,
We're gonna have to know, because,
we have to know that.
yeah, by
On,
Thursday.
But you're knowing after the fact.
I mean, are you basing a vote on the number, though? If they said, you know
We
what I
just
mean?
said if it goes up.
are
If it
you-
goes up-
Yeah, but we have, so we,
Yeah.
two things going on. You have you're treating them all similarly, but the rescue squad is the only one we don't have the number for.
It's the only
correct?
one we don't know is going up.
And we have another factor that's saying they're going through without a petition anyway,
I
right?
don't think they even need a
Is
petition.
that what I heard?
Right, and that's why it becomes a moot point. So you're saying, I'd like to make a motion.
We
that
know the other
last
two are
three-
level.
The last 3 that we have, that we put them on the warning, and that is the Fairhaven Rescue Squad, the Fairhaven Concerns, and ARC, all go on the warning. That's my motion.
Give them the phone.
That's your motion.
Well,
And because of COVID-19, we are not gonna hold their feet to the fire for the granular data that our policy requires. The number of people that they're helping out.
we did have one other, just no signatures, just, hey, I want to be on your warning letter come in from the Restorative Justice Center. They've never been funded, but if you're not requiring petitions, they did submit their request.
They didn't get funded last year,
You
but I would still, if we're not, in order to, I hear what you're saying, if we're gonna
Yes,
be
to get
consistent and
myself
treat
out of
everyone the
this.
same,
I've been
Well,
trying to get
Yeah,
petitions
I'm
signed
not
if we
trying to
have
throw
time.
like a wrench into it, I just
No,
don't want somebody
I-
to come back and say, well, you did that for them and not for
No,
us.
it's fair and concern.
they didn't get voted in last year, there's probably a
No.
high, but put them on, let the taxpayers
You
speak
did,
again.
Tom.
Sure.
I did not.
You received a request from who?
I just thought of it.
The Restorative Justice Center.
So I will, can I modify my
I
motion?
think it died due to lack of second anyway, so you can start over.
Okay, so, I'm trying, because in case he gets one in, another one in before the 14th, that, we are, because of COVID, we are not, we are not gonna require the getting the signatures for requests that do not increase this, because I want to include what you were talking about, that do not increase for this year. So if someone comes in and they weren't there, to be clear, someone who wasn't there last year, we don't look at them, they weren't there last year. They would have had to be, they may not have gotten voted in, but they were there last year. We're not opening the floodgates for new people to come running.
And neither is legislature.
Right, they're not
They're
either.
only doing it for the offices of public office.
Right, they didn't do it, which I find amazing, that they worried about that and didn't take care of the rest of the state. But that said, so my motion is for any, because of COVID,
When it's over.
any requests that were on the ballot last year are not gonna be required to get signatures this year because of COVID.
On the ballot or had an affirmative vote last year?
On the ballot, because I wanna treat the restorative justice the same as everyone else. I don't want anyone coming in
We want to say, and have not gone up,
Yeah,
and have not increased.
yeah,
that I
yes,
can get
that's
behind.
important.
Okay, so Glenn's motion is that we allow, petitions to be on the ballot for appropriations, coming in with no signatures, for organizations that were on the ballot last year without an increase. And, did I hit all those points?
I think that's,
Because of COVID, you are
Because of
not
COVID.
requiring signatures for requests that were on the ballot last year and have not increased in amount.
very good.
job.
Thank
Perfect,
you, Claire.
perfect.
Appropriations, I put in there
Yeah.
too, Claire.
Yeah, I'm
For
sorry.
appropriations.
For appropriations.
That's Glenn's motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Rod. Any other discussion, or did we do that already? I think I can be comfortable with
I
that,
think we beat this horse to death, yeah.
but at least we're all comfortable with that.
Yep,
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Check. So are we on this tax stabilization review and approval?
Yes, sir.
Night.
Good night, Sue.
Are you cold?
So should organizations turn in the petitions that they've got with signatures?
If they have them, it can't
Yeah,
hurt, but it's a moot point. so.
Okay, alright.
Yeah.
Just
No.
checking.
Hey, you want to sign my petition?
I guess that leaves you, and if Fairhaven Rescue comes in with, they're asking for another X number of thousands.
Except I don't think that, I think they're in that we have a vote that says we don't need to do that.
Well, I don't think it was, and I wasn't there, but I can't believe that the people who voted for that, the spirit of the vote was not to ask for anything and don't come to anybody.
Do you have the wording?
I mean, last year, they came to us and
They
said,
do, it's in the book.
we need to go up because of these reasons. Okay, we understand, at least we can get behind that. But to go up and not have the presence of mind to come and talk to anyone first, we don't even know how they're doing it now,
No.
as Glenn pointed out. Not that they have to answer to us, but
Well, it was really important a year ago. We were hearing from them a lot.
yes. Yes.
It's down.
So
Silent.
hopefully it's, it's silent because
So what?
we're just kind of coasting now.
I don't believe it.
And I believe that they are out straight.
Right, I'm busy as from,
No, I can imagine.
And I think there has been some leadership change.
Is,
No, I don't.
Sean is not.
Sean is not,
Sean, it's not there.
Well, he still goes, but he's
Not-
not.
no, okay.
Okay, so moving along to tax stabilization.
Okay, tax stabilization,
This is a request for review and approval,
yes.
the one we tabled last time.
We got another in the interim, so there is actually two requests.
Okay?
The first is, it's MT Associates, it's the Dunkin' Donuts that's going on Washington Avenue. The building's on that location, and there, you should have something that looks like this in your packet, and
Yep.
there are maps, and a little bit of information. The buildings that are on that location now are gonna be demoed. The land value sits at 30,000 now, though that could change after reassessment. The tax stabilization will lock the land, the taxable value of that property, into whatever the value of the land is, plus 50% of what the improvements will be for 5 years.
You're gonna do one at a time?
Yeah, I was just gonna do one at a time.
Yep.
I don't wanna confuse using a lot of numbers. So
And-
what we're asking for the board today is to approve the tax stabilization. The EDC did review both applications last night. And they have met, at least a few of us met with the MT Associates, Frank Trombetta, and they support the stabilization for both requests.
Definitely recommend for both of them.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the tax stabilization request from MT Associates for the Dunkin' Donuts building. They'll be going in.
Motion by Glenn to, so is it approve the application?
Yep.
Yeah, approve the application for the MT Associates, 50% tax stabilization program. Is there a second?
Second for discussion.
Mhm.
Okay, discussion.
What if
Should we wait for?
they don't have the buildings removed by April 1st? What happens?
If the buildings are not removed by April 1st, then that would be the lock-in for that tax year. So whatever's sitting there on April 1st is what the taxable value is.
Okay, it just, I see, they're promising that it's gonna be, stating that it's gonna be swiped clean on the 1st. I'm just wondering, okay, so what happens if they're not?
Yeah, and if it's not, they just
Because
have to pay more taxes.
April 1st, I mean, we could still be in winter.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I don't wanna
Good. It was,
commit to this. And
it was a good discussion with them, very positive, because it's there, they would, if they get it done before the listers go out and reappraise, they probably will have, because there won't be anything but the land. That's good. If they don't, they're gonna be paying the taxes on house, land, and everything, regardless of tearing it down after that. So it's to their, if you're saying, it's to their advantage to have it, the demolition and removal done.
well, at least knocked down.
Oh,
Yeah,
And,
unlivable.
Yeah, unlivable.
and their game plan was to start construction late summer
Mhm.
and have it completed by year end.
So we're gonna go in and reassess, the listers are gonna go in and reassess after the project is done. And they're gonna pay based upon the 30,000 plus 50% of the assessed value for the building.
This is the way the new policy works, it's a good question, Ron. The way the new policy is done for a new building, because they're coming in, they're not taking an existing building and building additional on. they're gonna take it out. They're, all best laid plans don't always follow, but let me, what was explained to us, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, is they'll have it demoed before the 1st of April. Which means they basically, the current land value is 30,000, so it looks like the taxes will be on 30,000, just land. They're gonna go in late summer, and they're gonna build an $800,000 to $900,000 building. When, in April, when the listers come in again, they're going to tax, and let's just call it 800,000 for now, and that's 50% of that 800,000. And 50% of 800,000 would mean they'd be paying the taxes for 5 years, because it's a commercial. And commercial is 5 years and residential is 3 by the policy that we have. They're gonna be paying on 400,000 for 5 years.
430,000.
430,000, but, well, no, the 30, because the land, yes, you're correct.
Don't, yes, but when they reassess, that 30 might change, so it might go up, it might go down. So it's important not to get like stuck
I'll
on
wrap
But
that.
that
on that.
stays there.
It might go up, it might go down when they assess, but that's what the current value is.
Yep.
I
But it
know.
says 30,000 plus the assessed value of the property,
That's correct.
of the building.
Yes.
So if it does go up, the land value, if that does go up, is it based upon the land value plus 50% of the building?
It would be the land value plus the improvement.
Okay, then this has to be changed to be land value plus 50% of the building.
So bullet point 4 says the current land value is 30, though this could change when reassessed. These aren't hard numbers, and we won't have hard numbers until the listers reappraise that property. There's no way to tell what that number will be until it's reappraised.
Well, I understand that, but yes, I understand that bullet point 4 is that it may change, but the last bullet point says it's going to be not the land value plus 50% of the building, it says 30,000 plus 50% of the building.
Yeah, so that's my typo, and that should say land value.
Okay,
Yeah.
if we're willing to make that change, I'm okay, because now there's
Well,
some very
so these are
specific.
just
for your
talking points.
information. Yeah, this
These
is
are
all-
just talking points, the other one.
Yeah, this is not something.
But we're approving the application. As long as the application specifically, says what it says here, I'm okay. I mean, I heard a motion and I seconded it to approve the application. Well, as long as the application says this,
This is the application, right?
The application will not have assessed value numbers on it.
Okay.
This isn't about, so the
Because
tax
you're
stabilization,
So
it's
maybe the
not
motion
about,
should be approve the request for?
it's not about you're not approving assessed numbers because we don't know what those are. What you're approving is a 50% reduction in improvement. There will never be a hard number to approve
Right,
with this.
you won't have one until the listers. look at
So
it.
should we just amend the motion to say that?
To say, what would you like the motion to be?
Should it, should it say, approve the request
Well,
for,
All I'm looking to do, forgetting the numbers,
follow the
to
policy?
approve, the policy just says that the select board just needs to approve the tax stabilization request. Because you don't know what any of those numbers are. So I'm making a motion to approve the tax stabilization request.
Perfect.
That's all I'm doing.
okay.
And then
And understanding, first
policy
time,
holds the rest of
well,
the way through.
it's a new policy, and I think these are great questions and things, because it's the first time we're using it, good questions to be asked, and that's the reason we did a special meeting of the Economic Development Committee last night, to say it's a new policy, let's look at this, how do you feel,
Were there any, red flags or anything?
oh,
That you saw?
they both meetings were great, all kinds of energy from, Mr. Trombetta and Laura at that meeting, and I don't want to take Joe's thunder when he talks about the other one, which was amazing. So anyway,
Do I
made the
have a
motion.
s- Do I have a second?
And
I seconded it.
Okay, I missed that. We've got a motion by Glenn, seconded by Carol to approve the tax stabilization request.
Now,
From
this is
MT
to approve
Associates?
the tax
MT
stabilization
Associates.
Application as requested by MT
T Associates.
Associates.
Yep.
Sure,
And then discussion was,
all that.
okay, so Rob
Any
did not
other-
second, it was Carol.
Yep. Any other discussion on this one? All in favor, say aye.
Aye,
Motion carries. All right, we have one more.
yes.
Yep. So this is, let me get this folder out. The business is currently Stepping Stones Learning. The request comes from Jessica Stannard, 400 River Street. Jessica she has a home business, and she's a home business for daycare. She's adding a large addition to her property so that way she can expand her daycare. Again, it's at 400 River Street. Her current assessed value is $214,000. The project cost is $80,000 to $100,000. The property will be assessed, so after the project it'll be assessed again. The taxable value of this land will be the current value plus 50% of the addition. So we can with certainty say that the 214, you're not getting less than the 214 assessed. But the additions and everything will
That's for
change.
3 years or for 5? Still?
3.
Yeah, this is,
Is this 3 or 5?
3, this is a residential, she lives there.
Okay.
Okay.
But
And that's the
good,
loophole?
very good.
Or that's the
Well,
difference?
you know, the new policy that we said, there's the residential with the business, and then there's the
But this is
commercial.
both.
And so she's living there and having the daycare and doing the addition in the home that she's living in.
Mhm.
Is
And
that
she's
the attached?
she's on board that it's 3.
Is it?
Yes, she is.
Okay.
But, and I
Is
don't
that-
wanna confuse things, but we had a very good conversation with her when she says, if this starts the way, it goes the way she wants, she plans on putting a new building.
Mhm.
She owns a couple lots, but we'll take it one step at a time. I thought it was, the facts that we have, a tax stabilization, it was a very good discussion. She said she was looking at houses in Castleton and ultimately chose Fairhaven, which was kinda nice. Now, I'm not gonna say it was just because.
Because of this?
No, I'm not gonna say it was just
How
because.
did you know
I,
about
we
it?
did,
It was,
with talking with her and, Frank Trembetta and Laura, that they asked them how they found the process of filling out the application and everything. They're very easy, very straightforward, and they.
Good.
And it worked.
do we have a motion?
No.
Does someone wanna make a motion besides me?
I'm not going to his chair.
I lost track of where we are. So we're making the motion.
We need a
for
motion
Stepping Stones
to approve the tax stabilization request,
application.
residential tax stabilization request by Stepping Stones.
Or just say as,
Carol made that motion.
yeah.
So move.
And
Go ahead, you do a second.
I'll
Instead of doing it.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Glenn. Just so that you're on your toes when you do those minutes, Claire. It's gonna be and switch.
Yeah, oh, capital letters.
Is there any other discussion on that?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, I think we're review of policies,
Now,
but I set my agenda for it.
since this is the first time we're really doing this, the listers are on board as to what triggers the full assessment versus
Good
partial
question.
assessment?
yeah, this is new to us.
Let's make sure.
I talked to Danny yesterday, and yeah, we have to work out the process on
Yeah.
theirs. They need to work out the process on their
Just-
side.
Just wanna make sure that the trigger, maybe it's in the computer, whatever, but there's a trigger that's automatic, that no one has to think about it.
That's, yes.
Especially
I mean,
at
listers
the end of
change.
5 years.
5 years from now, things might be different. It's,
Well, all the listers might be different, and,
Yeah.
you know, it turns into 10 years.
yep.
So there should at least be a sticky on your wall.
Right on my computer monitor.
There's another one here, are we discussing that?
Which, did I miss one?
Which one? Which
one?
64 Airport Road?
I mean, is that part of the?
Is
That's the
that's
trim,
Dunkin'
that's the
Donuts?
trim,
I think that's Dunkin' Donuts, isn't it?
That's,
Yeah,
Panushik,
that's,
Dale Panushik.
they have a typo on their paperwork. It's, everything's right on that, tax card except the name. That goes to a mobile home unit.
Okay, so this should be the, this here is the Dunkin' Donuts?
Mhm.
Yes. The 64 Washington?
Right on the Fourth
And
Street.
that property card goes with that property. It's just they put the mobile home unit name in there twice on the land and on the mobile home unit.
Okay.
Panushik should say MT Associates.
right, it should be MT Associates here.
Wow, that's a totally different location than I thought.
On the corner of Airport and
Right on the corner.
Fourth and
I thought
Airport.
I thought it was
Towards
closer
Walgreens.
to, yeah, closer to Walgreens.
No, there's still an empty lot there, I think,
There.
in between.
So this,
But do,
that house is, I mean,
do you
The house is
have,
gone.
that house is gonna be gone.
does he have that sketch that shows the driveway going in and how you go around?
Oh, I had it.
Because that's better than the other one with just the yellow. That sketch does a nice job of showing
Did you see this sketch?
the sketch of how you come in the airport, how drive out and go out the other way
So they're gonna come
on
in
Washington.
kind of around it, this way.
Uh-huh.
Huh?
I mentioned Dunkin' Donuts, everyone was like,
What?
well, it's gonna have a drive-through, right?
The high school.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, that's what's in the sketch.
My wife is gonna love you.
Yeah,
All right, that's-
okay.
They're gonna make a killing
All
on
right.
that corner.
837.
Review the policies.
Review of policies, where are we? D.
Capital
Yep.
program, which one do you remember?
Oh, there's 3 of them.
There's one.
So, the intent of this is to just initial conversation, look through, right?
Yeah, so we whipped up, 3, they seem to be pertinent to I know the board's getting ready to change in March, so, these were discussions that we've had for about a year now. Like the reserve policy's been sitting in our parking lot for a while. We thought maybe it'd be good to clean up our to-dos.
Yep.
So this is the first go at this.
So I think it's just come back with changes on these. If anybody has questions now, we'd take them, but is there, does anybody want to dive into these at all?
I'd like
I'm okay with
time
that.
to look at it.
Right, I look at it and I've started marking some up, but I think that's probably
Another meeting.
another meeting.
Sounds good.
Would you like, as approach, so Joe, would you like us as we're seeing things and questions, to send them to you so that we can be closer?
Yep.
These are a good start, but would you like to, we give you the edits, so we're coming in the conversations that we,
I would appreciate that.
It'd be
'Cause
quicker.
it would be easier to just have the edits in there and discuss that instead of just kind
I
of.
think we can get
reading
that.
We
through it.
want
So
one
let's-
of these.
I need the road.
It's that one. You got it.
Okay.
I have an electronic copy.
good.
And I can email these to you as well, so that way you can make electronic.
If you make changes, let me know.
Okay,
And then request to move playground reserve funds.
Yeah, so we've been collecting playground grants. Now, this is the donations that the mayors have been pulling in for a few years. And depending on who took the donation, some of it ended up in one account, some of it ended up in another account. Jenny piled it all together and she said she'd like to move it to the playground building reserve fund, so all those funds are in one location for when the payment comes in March to actually buy the equipment. This is just kind of a housekeeping thing to keep things together.
so you'd like a motion on that?
Yeah, a motion to move. Yep.
I'll make a motion to move $25,707.33 from the recreation fund. No, I'm reading it right off from a proposed.
25,
$707.33.
Okay,
From the recreation fund
go ahead.
to the playground building reserve fund.
Okay,
Motion by Glenn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rod to just housekeeping, moving funds from one account to the other so that so they're ready for payment on the playground equipment when it comes.
Yep.
April, you said?
March.
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 Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Truck trade, what everybody's been waiting for.
Yeah, this is the exciting one. Okay, so, Aaron, if you can still hear us, you'll be up in 1 second. So just to introduce the topic, we did, the board did approve $50,000 deposit into the, highway equipment fund. And we did, go down to the DPW shop, take a look at the equipment. And I think a lot of the conversation, was around, or at least some of the conversation was around that green truck that the town owns. That truck is up for replacement. It has, and Aaron will be able to speak in more detail about this, but the truck itself has cost us, I think, $14,000 just in repairs over the last 18 months. Beyond that, the thing hasn't, I think it's finished 2 storms. We did pull numbers. We do have we found, we pulled together numbers for financing and payment. We got trade-in value, and Aaron, do you have anything to add?
And so, in going over the plan and that truck and the issues we have with it, trying to scope out, see what trucks will look like, because with the plan I have currently written now, if that truck is due to be replaced this coming year, 2022, everybody's been saying that if you go to order a truck, you're looking at well over a year. When I was talking to ATG, which is a truck dealer in Westminster, he said, as a matter of fact, he has a truck that hadn't been spoken for just yet that was part of stock program as part of the state bid. So he has a 2022 Freightliner FL114 that is actually at Viking right now getting the equipment put on it. So that truck is actually ready to roll end of January is what they're hoping for that. Like Joe said, the green machine we have now was bought for an interim to replace the 09 International when that needed significant work to even get it back on the road. And the ATG at that point, when we did buy that truck, said, if you do go to get your new truck like you're supposed to, if you get it in the next year or so, we'll give you $45,000 back on trade on that truck. I did speak with them, and they will hold that number. They have came up and looked at the truck, so they would give us $45,000 trade back on this truck. Truck itself, with gear, prices out to $203,417. Minus the $45,000, we're at $158,417. As Joe said, what we'd be looking to do is to try and use some funds to buy that rate down some more to get us to the loan allowance that the state has to their equipment financing program, which they'll loan us $110,000 or one time a year, simple interest of 2%. For a 5-year loan. The payment would end up being $22,440 starting probably by the paperwork's all done February, late January, early February of 2023 at this point. What we would need to do is be able to finish, so we're still making payments on that green machine. We'd have to pay that loan off and use either the fund or the $50,000 from the truck fund, or I would ask that we could use some ARPA money to try and help buy that down to get to that $110,000 for that state loan. Or even if the board was willing to spend a little bit more ARPA money or equipment truck money to get that to that loan payment to be less than that $22,000 would be even better yet.
Aaron, this is Glenn. How much do we owe on the truck?
$26,100.
Thank you.
And
So to get down to the $110,000, we need to come up with $74,517, give or take a few pennies, of course.
How much did we buy that green truck for?
We paid $59,750 for that machine. That was bought November of 19. We actually did not take delivery of it till, I want to say, I believe it was March. And in that interim, we had a loaner from the dealership. To make it so the payment rolls over, the thought and plan could be find the money to pay this low or pay the truck down that $75,000 to get to stay at loan level. Is that first year make another payment, make the payment from the truck equipment fund, and then the last 4 years we could pay from debt services, which would kind of wash out when the loader payment goes clear. So we'd go from paying 19,000. 1 second here. We're paying $19,445 a year for the loader. We would then just roll that debt services to that, somewhere around that $22,000 payment mark for that new truck.
Aaron, this is Glenn again. Is the plan that if we were to get this truck, that we'd be paying on it and using it until like 7 years, until 2029?
So we'd be using it until 2029. Of course, the 5-year loan would be paid off by then. But yeah, 7 years is the way the plan's written right now.
I just looked because it looked like the 15 to where we are, it looked like 7 years is what we're looking at probably.
Yes.
Okay.
With this the jump trying to get to the 7-year mark, we are going to have to push the 2017 out, the newer single axle. We'd have to push. We're going to push that out to try to push that to 2026 to try and buy back a little bit, because right now we have this 2015 that we need to get it done sooner than later, and I don't want to try and double up on payments too hard right away on that. There's some other, the 2010 Ford F550 needs to be talked about sooner than later as well.
What's coming with this truck?
Truck comes fully equipped with the new front plow wing. It is a 14-foot dump box, so it's a small tandem. So it'll come equipped to go day one. It essentially come like our 2017 did.
Plow, wing.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah, full carbide blades on the wing and the plow, so we won't see even plow blade need to be changed out on that for at least 2 years. When we, like I said before, we've seen 2.5 years out of those carbide systems we've been running.
How many hours on the green truck?
I told Nate, I totally forgot to grab those. Those are sitting at on my desk at the shop, and unfortunately I have not been there in the last week due to isolations.
Well, I don't need to know the exact minutes. I mean, roughly,
Yeah.
rough order of magnitude.
I know miles wise, I think it was up there, but hours I can't say exactly. I forgot. My apologies.
What are the miles?
I want to say I think that one was pushing 45 or more thousand. Maybe Nate, could you speak to that?
I think we're over 50 on that. I'm gonna text Ed. See if you can remember it off the top of his head.
Well, he's checking on that, Aaron. I'm looking at a bullet here that says has only completed 2 storms over the last 2 years. So I gotta ask the question, when I see something like that, it sounds like we didn't use it very much. Is the need there to have this truck?
Yes, sir. So
Help me understand that.
Yep. So the truck itself, when we're talking completing a storm as in was able full function to do its job. That big storm of early December last year, 3 hours in, that truck lost its bed chain, tore itself right to pieces. So that truck for the remainder of the storm was only able to plow all of that storm. So what it ended up having to do is that 2017 had to backtrack, and that 15 had to try to kind of chase each other around the whole entire storm, where one was keeping, or the red machine, the 17 was keeping material down, salt, sand, and all that one could do for the storm was just plow. So effectively, it was not doing what it could do.
Okay.
Would be the same thing for all the other storm events. It would by the end of the storm, something was broke on it, needed to be fixed.
Okay, so it was out there running, it just wasn't running to its full capabilities.
It was not. And that's the biggest thing for us to push on the replacement of this truck is just been a headache of keeping our services to the level that we're expected to without causing major headaches and, just struggling to keep, other trucks on their own route and keep the routes open. We're always having to backfill what this truck has failed to complete.
Do you need more staff, Aaron, because you have to chase each other around, so instead of having one person be able to do it, you need 2 people working?
It essentially does stretch the manpower, so we're not able to complete stuff on our normal time basis. I.e. that when that truck ripped its bed chain apart, that truck was in the shop for an hour just trying to see if it was even feasible to fix it. For that time, there was a guy that was, in the shop, and the other trucks were trying to keep up with that, just even plowing the road. So yeah, it's not, it's not that it hasn't completed storms, it just has not completed enough storms that we're even comfortable keeping it in the fleet and causing us, to lose service like we don't want to at all.
Did we replace the bed chain?
Yes. Yeah, that was, I think, just over $1,000 some for the parts and pieces to put that all together. When we picked up the truck, we had 32,000 miles on it then. I do not see, unfortunately, an hours number on that listing. My apologies.
No problem. So, another question I have there, so the thing I'm always sensitive to is, I think we've talked in the past about surprises are not a good thing, but it sounds like our capital plan said this truck needed to be replaced in 2022 anyway, so what you're requesting is following the plan, or is this an adjustment to the plan? It's following the plan.
Following the plan that I believe would be the best serve for the town. Of course, my plan could be different from someone else's, but I believe this would be the best service for the town to move forward. But that does include, we do have to keep going forward with it. Just buying, unfortunately, just buying this truck doesn't stop us from having to make that next step.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
So
That's
the question is, as Aaron pointed out, his plan is based upon years. I reached out to some of the drivers in the state, at the state level. They drive their truck, and it's different scenarios. I'm not suggesting that we do this, but they get about 10,000 hours out of their trucks. They work on hundreds, not 27 miles, but hundreds of miles.
Yep.
They don't base it upon years. They based upon some other indice that is a better indication of how used up the truck is. I see it as, we got a truck now that we don't know how many hours is on it, but, we have a truck that has a new bed chain, new parts, and it cost us $14,000, which is not even a payment. And, you know, we're giving up all those new parts. I guess we're being told that it's gonna break again. Well, that's preventative maintenance. That's what we have a mechanic for. That's my opinion.
Unfortunately, the stuff that's breaking emissions-wise is not preventative maintenance. That has stuff beyond our mechanics' control and ability. We do not have computers to do the hookup and to actually diagnose through the emissions, as we pay our mechanics outside to do. The machine itself is costing us downtime. That's our big factor. It's when we get the phone calls, why is my road not done? Or when the manager and you guys as the board members get the phone calls, it's not because we're not trying to do our job, it's because, something is failing us as we're trying to do our job. So, for the years versus another indicator, for the state, it's easier. They're bigger pockets. They can afford to have a couple trucks that cost them an issue and finally get to send them down the road because they do have spares and backups available. But we don't have that luxury. When our truck's down, it's down. We can't just pull the guy out of the truck and call at the shop and tell them to send them another one and then have a mechanic working on it at the same time. Truck goes down, it's down. So if we go by years with the amount of equipment we have, we can actually sit and figure a number of what we need to put in either the budget fund every year to pay for this equipment, or we debt services it, and that's a fixed number that we can actually budget instead of having two pieces of equipment meet that same criteria of, they cost us too much money, and then now we have to afford two vehicles at one time instead of saying, no, that truck is going down the road because its current time is there. And I'm not saying that, if a truck isn't treating us real well and something else bites us in the butt, we can't alter it in a good way, but to just say we need to, figure out where to run the truck to fail or to almost fail, it doesn't work for the services that the town requests.
Joe?
So, and Rod, I was right there with what you said. It's like, we just put all this money into this truck, why would we trade it?
Mm-hmm.
I was making this mistake with that tractor that we had. It's like, great, we just fixed it, let's use it. We just fixed it, let's use it. We just fixed it, let's use it. And we dropped so much money into that tractor, I thought the next time we fix it, this has gotta be it. And it seemed like every time we added some money to trying to fix this old kind of beat up piece of equipment, it broke again, and it was always something. And it was a mistake I was making. I think it's chasing good money after bad for this truck. And I think it's the same thing with this truck. It's got emissions problems that it keeps pinging. When I call Aaron trying to find out what's going on with these storms every weekend, that's the first thing I ask, did the green truck make it? And it's like, well, it lost power on the hill, or the emissions light came on, or the chain broke, or... I would hate to keep, you have to ask, at what point do you stop throwing money at it? Is it a waste? And $14,000 in just 18 months, man, that's a ton of money into just tractor repair. And just, even to think beyond that though, let's say, well, let's just wait.
What do the other trucks cost you?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, hang on. So if we think, well, let's keep it for another year or two. Prices of trucks aren't going to come down; they're going to go up.
Well,
And then our trade is
paying
going to
retail on this because they're not doing the fleet.
No,
sure. But
this truck is a Freightliner state bid truck.
This
You will not buy this truck cheaper by our bid specs. The cheapest way to get it is on this one. If we go to order it, the dealer said he's estimating a $12,000 increase next year in trucks. And that's just the truck chassis, not the equipment going on it.
So beyond the truck increase, which I didn't realize it was that much, the value of the truck that we have, the kind of lemon that we have, that's not gonna stay at 45, that's gonna go down to 40, it's gonna go down to 35. This is a lot of money, and I understand, but I think it's a better use of money to bite the bullet now than to wait 2 years and say, man, we dropped $35,000 into that truck and now we can only get 25 out of it. It does, looking forward, it doesn't seem like the math works to wait.
And this is going to empty your reserve account.
No, reserve right now is at will be $91,800. And then the 50,000 that you have going to hopefully go in July 1 per the voters would take that total to $141,800. What I would ask is that the highway department or the DPW get a little bit of light shine from the Selectboard and the ARPA funding to try and help reduce that so we don't have to take it all out of the equipment fund.
What do we have in the equipment fund?
Just said.
Okay,
$91,800.
I thought in the reserve fund, that's the reserve you was talking about?
But
Yes.
he needs 110 plus.
At the end of the day, when I was gonna, where's the money? And it sounds like, so you need 100, how much ARPA money are you asking for?
Which we can't,
Which we can't commit,
Yeah, we don't.
we can't even have that conversation.
right?
I wouldn't think ARPA would be Aaron, I don't think we talked about this, but ARPA was supposed to be a different thing.
So my only question is, if you didn't have ARPA, can you get this and make the payment? And stay with.
Make the deal even sweeter yet, but without ARPA, yes, we would tap a good chunk out of reserves, but there still would be reserves left.
Yeah, and you'd stay within your budget.
But nowhere near enough for the next piece of equipment,
No,
which we're gonna get surprised about.
I thought you needed 9.
The plan is written to not have any surprises, and this truck is not a surprise.
I thought this was one. I thought you needed 110 plus the buyout on the truck. Cash.
Well, I see they deducted the price is 203, and when they deducted it, they came out to that.
Aaron, I'm sorry, I don't have the numbers. Aaron, how much cash do you need to get down to 110,000?
$74,517.
That's your number.
And that includes the 25 buyout on the green truck.
Yes. 26,100 for the buyout.
Sorry. Paraphrase.
That
70.
payment that for the green truck currently comes out of debt services. So if we pay that off, that frees up that money that's supposed to be in debt services and regular budget to be used for something else as well.
We're paying on the green truck now $8,000 a year. So that debt would go away and be replaced with other debt.
With other two.
I would ask that it be put to the reserve if it was possible, and that would definitely help that payment even more yet.
Why wouldn't you use that for part of the?
I believe that comes from 010 from debt services there. Or maybe it is 030, my apologies.
That's okay.
You
Makes your debt services look better, but you can't take money from debt services and put it towards a reserve.
right? I don't think so.
It's not how it works.
When
I would say leave it as surplus and ask to utilize it to go to reserve later.
do you need an answer tonight on this truck?
I would prefer at least a green light to make sure that I'm solid with my numbers with the dealer, as well as check the state financing to make sure we're in the clear. Well, of course, it's open market, so, and all the dealers I've talked to have said if there's a truck out there, you need to grab it as fast as you can, because if someone else needs one, that's the only thing that's available right now, because everything else is a year plus out from order date. I know Charlotte just lost their garage just before Christmas, and I believe they lost all their trucks as well.
Think they wanna buy a green truck?
I could send it up to them, see if they want to give us more money.
Aaron, can the board wait 2 weeks? This is a big purchase. Do you mind if they chew on this? I know
he's worried it's
If
gonna
we
get
have any
settled.
questions, I'd like to have them ask now so I can bring real answers next meeting.
that's fair.
I guess I was expecting that we were looking at a truck order, and that's my fault. I wasn't prepared for this conversation.
Well, actually, this is, this is not even the budget that we were just talking about. This is current budget.
In the money, right, the money
This
we
is
have right now today.
No, I
today's
understand.
dollars.
That's why I was thinking that
Right.
we were looking at committing to order a truck for
Mhm.
in the next fiscal year, which would be more
So-
along the lines of where you were budgeted to buy it, correct?
No, it's a year or
So
2 years.
the way the plan works out is we do not touch any of next year's budget money. It's all fund money until we're able to budget the payment in the 23-24 year.
I missed something there.
I think he's talking about the payment won't come out to 23.
The first
So
payment
we
will be-
I would need the $74,517 to get us to the loan value. So the loan would start when we sign the paperwork late July or late January, early February, and that payment would be arrears. So that first payment will not be due until that same date in 23. So that payment I would expect to come from the fund again. And then after that, roll that payment into the budget under debt services to wash out the loader payment.
To answer the question of what would I wanna see is, we've talked a lot of money moving to different places. I see what it's gonna cost and what they wanna give us in trade-in. I'd like to see a sheet that says, here's where all that money we just talked about is, the ins and outs and everything else and where it is. So I'm looking at a sheet of paper that has all that. That with what I have here, I find real helpful.
We are meeting
I
on
say my
Friday.
apologies from working
Do
remote.
you
I
want to talk
haven't
about
been
it on Friday?
able to get stuff.
But any
finished up
chance,
nicely.
Jeff just asked the question, Aaron, and when we're meeting Friday to do something else, can we put one, can you have that?
Do you have time to warn that for Friday?
It's already warned.
No, but actually put it on.
On the,
I could change
The
I've never
agenda?
changed an agenda, but yeah, I can just rewarn it, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, that's something, that's a lot of money. You don't wanna make.
Yeah, I
it
don't
another-
want to change an agenda to buy a truck.
No. Okay, yeah, I can rewarn it if the board wants.
At least we've said what we're talking about doing on here.
Yeah,
But that's closer than 2 weeks.
that's
That's
a
just
couple
Friday.
days.
That's just Friday, yeah.
Any other thoughts? And questions and information you want back?
No, that funding request is gonna be important.
Hours, miles, right?
Yeah.
You want to know all that?
Well,
Might as
miles
well,
you
but-
gave me,
yeah.
but miles don't mean as much as the hours do.
And what might be, I probably have it somewhere in some past notes, but for me, it's that sheet of paper there and maybe your current capital plan for replacement as part of that packet. Cause it would help us look at that and see the other things that you mentioned about the other truck needing to be coming up and need to be pushed out a year or replaced. And I think it might help the discussion if we had that in front of us too, Aaron.
Sounds good.
Yeah, but those would make me happy.
Nate, you got anything to add?
No, not currently, unless you guys got questions. On that, but
Anything that this new truck has over what you have today? It's basically, it's 1-to-1.
The capability of that small tandem will definitely have more trackability on the road itself, as well as a carrying capacity. That would allow us to do a lot more work with just either that truck or take what we have with the single axle in that truck and almost, it's almost like putting a third truck in the route. So when they're out hauling gravel for grading, you get much more material out on the road quicker. So we're not having to, track back and forth with just essentially two trucks. So we are working like it's three. The biggest deal is the winter time, is that trackability of having those extra set of tires, drive tires in the back to get that truck where it needs to go, on that outside route, Bigelow Hill and Inman Pond and such.
Will you be able to fit this in your barn?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's about the problem. I guess my only 2 cents is like, that green truck we bought was used because the other one was unpreparable. So it was hard. It was hard to maintain it, I guess. I know I'm saying this wrong, but like when we buy something new, we maintain it the way, like we grease it on the cert, you know what I mean?
I do.
So it's easier. So we bought something we didn't know. It visually seemed good, but ended up not being good.
It sounds though like it's not necessarily wear parts that are letting you down on that truck. Not think
We've had to
it's not
we've had
lacking.
to do some.
Okay.
Well, we gotta,
We've had to do some unnecessary repairs. When we went to change the wind blade out the first time, I'm not going to say the people that owned it before us, but somebody between us getting it and them getting rid of it had wore down the wing so far that the first 3 bolt holes for the wing were half wore out. So somebody had run a blade setup on it to fail. And it must have fallen off essentially. So we've had to even re-weld moldboards on the front of the wing. Something that's, that's beyond our control. That's not something we let happen with our own fleet.
And then the only other thing I wanted to just clarify was you're talking about $1,000 a month in maintenance on this truck. What are we looking at on our other trucks that we have? I know a brand new truck is a very low number, but what's our middle of the road?
The 17 that Nate drives, the red machine, to date, I think we had to do some tranny lines, as well as just now this last weekend bed chain failure, but otherwise that machine has served pretty flawlessly. Everything that has come up with an issue has been covered in some form with a warranty or otherwise. Otherwise, it's normal wear and tear, or not wear and tear, but oil changes and the like for that machine.
Okay. Bed chain failure, full failure, or just a link?
link that busted.
All right. Any other questions?
No, I think we, Friday, we come back and do it.
Yeah, we'll come back Friday,
Got it.
one way or another.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Nate.
Parking lot, and then roundtable.
Nothing in parking.
Round-
I did not drop those, I guess I do have, I did not put the policies in there just because we started working on them already.
I'd like, it's nice to see them there because we're working on inclusion. I'm working on Munger Road. Zoning is being worked on. Starting some work on Adam Street Bridge, more to follow, but it's, so it's a, yeah, I'd put the two down there. It's good. Okay.
Roundtable?
Nope, I'm good. I had mine. We talked about it already. Nothing.
And we answered mine in meeting, so. Expenditure reports.
I make a motion to pay the general fund warrant for $256,160.71.
Second.
That includes appropriations payments as well as $6,000 for the tank cleaning at the water treatment plant.
Motion by Rod, seconded by Glenn to pay the general fund warrant. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Make a motion to pay the payroll warrant for $31,572.69.
Second it?
Motion by Rod, seconded by Glenn, to pay the payroll warrant. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Checkbook status is. $965,554.91. And I need a motion for an executive session.
I'll make the motion to go into executive session, attorney-client communication under 1 VSA 313A1.
Second it?
Motion by Glenn, seconded by Carol. Executive session with the town manager.
Yes.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.